So our next speaker is Kate Fitzgerald. Kate came to us as somebody who had several years of experience in marine mammals, in rehab, and education and science around marine mammals. And she came to the MAS MBC program because she wanted to pivot to science communication. While she was here, she found a love for ocean law and policy. She interned with the California Fish and Game Commission. She gave public comments at a variety of regulatory bodies in California, and she found a love for fisheries management, which is what we're going to hear about today. Kate really came and just immediately skyrocketed in terms of her understanding and her knack and her hardworking approach to ocean law and policy. She's actually going to be the TA for our class this fall. Go, Kate. So really excited for us to all hear about the project that she's going to share with us today. Welcome, Kate Fitzgerald.
Two potential direct economic impacts discussed in this section include changes in avoidance costs, as described under Alternative 1 and foregone gross revenue. Considering potentially foregone revenue under a PSC limit has been the primary quantitative method used in many previous bycatch analyses in the North Pacific to scale the expected economic impacts on the directly regulated fishing sector. The calculation of foregone revenue necessarily relies on retrospective data, but the broader analysis assumes that if these limits were in place in the future to the extent possible, fishing would be altered prior to meeting these proposed caps. Did you get that? Okay, yes, you have no context, and this is only an excerpt from the document. But imagine trying to understand 345 pages of intricate scientific writing in this style. Even seasoned scientists have to look back at this 2, 3, 4, or in my case, 57 times. Regulatory documents like environmental impact statements are often so complex that they shut people out of meaningful conversations. It is interactions between people and the planet that are the core of making these changes. So for my project, I have created an interactive communication tool that helps people understand regulations around chum salmon bycatch in the Bering Sea Pollock fishery. Because this issue touches on cultural, economic, and environmental concerns, it is critical that information be accessible, creative, and impactful to extend beyond council meeting rooms and into communities themselves. First, a lesson in the two main topics I need you to know. Bycatch. It is the fish or other marine species caught unintentionally while trying to catch another fish. And in 2022, the North Pacific Fisheries Management Council and NOAA Fisheries began reevaluating chum salmon bycatch rules after a concerning spike in 2021. That year, over 545,000 chum salmon were caught as bycatch. That's more than double the 10-year average of 258,000. This 112% increase raised alarm, particularly due to the importance of chum salmon to Western and interior Alaska Native tribes and communities. Since then, bycatch numbers have dropped. These improvements are likely due to better avoidance strategies by the Pollock fleet, as well as shifting salmon and Pollock distributions. However, even with this recent progress, the 2021 spike highlights the volatility of bycatch. A crisis of declining chum salmon is occurring in the rivers of western and interior Alaska. This results in closures for subsistence fisheries that tribes have relied on for millennia. The North Pacific Fisheries Management Council is grappling with how to adopt rules to help minimize chum salmon bycatch to the extent practicable, while still allowing the Pollock fishery to harvest effectively. Which brings me to my second topic, the Preliminary Draft Environmental Impact Statement, or DEIS. This is the backbone of my project. This report helps the public and decision makers understand how various fishing management options, like closing parts of fishing grounds, will impact the environment, communities, and the economy. By examining the potential impacts of each option, The report facilitates informed choices that safeguard both the environment and the people who rely on it. I knew that to really understand these impacts and the needs for my project, I had to go to these communities. I had to get to Alaska. When you're traveling to Bethel, Alaska, you have two options. You can take a plane, or you can take a dog sled. And I'm sure you know which one I chose. It was a plane. But next time, I'll be taking the dog sled, for sure. Because of minimal road access, getting goods to this part of the state is extremely difficult. Groceries are flown in and sold at high prices, and there's often limited options, and a majority of it is highly processed. Alaska natives rely on chum salmon swimming upstream for a multitude of reasons, like seasonal abundance and stewardship, spiritual reciprocity with the land and the water, subsistence economies, and intergenerational resilience. I wanted to understand how communities were responding to this DEIS, so I attended a regional advisory council meeting held on the lands of the Yupik people. Council members listen to feedback from chum salmon users in their communities, and on behalf of their respected regions, provide input back to the North Pacific Fisheries Management Council about what regulations they would like to see adopted. Attending this meeting offered me connections, context, and understanding of the proposed actions. There, I had the pleasure of meeting Chair Jacqueline Cleveland, a gifted photographer and proud member of the Quinnipiac tribe. She thanked me for being present, a simple gesture that really hit me. Sometimes showing up can be a pretty powerful action. As I sat and listened in this small room filled with people from near and far, I had no idea the impact that it would have on both me and my dad, who immediately bought a plane ticket when he learned that I was going to the interior of Alaska alone, but also listened to hours of deep conversation about chum salmon, Alaska Native tribes, and the importance of this project to me. Sprinkled throughout the course of the meeting were opportunities for public comment or testimony. This is a mechanism for citizens to participate in the decision-making process and ensure that their voices are heard before government actions are finalized. While listening, I wrote down some things that stood out to me. Like, this is confusing. Salmon are our food source. This bycatch has to stop. In the long run, the natives are going to hurt the most. After this meeting, I had a clear vision on what was being fought for, what was being fought to protect: families, traditions, and identity. I went back to the lower 48 and thought about all the people that I was going to try to reach with this project. How was I going to do that? It all starts with how people learn. And when I'm not here at Scripps, I am a dance teacher. And when I'm teaching dance to my students, I not only show them the dance move, of course, I also verbally explain it, like put your right hand up in the air, wave it around, and then toss it behind you. But I'll also ask them to imagine they're holding a paintbrush. They're painting a large canvas, and then they get really frustrated and throw the paintbrush behind them. It resonates so much more with people when you provide information in multiple ways. And that was what I carried into this deliverable. There are many layers to this preliminary DEIS, so I created a dynamic and interactive multimedia platform, or a story map collection, to help navigate it. This collection integrates multiple components, bringing together 5 story maps, the original DEIS document, external infographics, and supplemental resources. Let me run you through a scenario. Say I'm a salmon fisher from the Pacific Northwest interested in learning more about this action. Well, I'm unfamiliar with the region of Alaska. So interactive maps with pop-up capabilities allow me to explore the affected areas, natal streams that salmon return to, and locations of pollock processing plants. Well, how does the pollock fishery operate? Infographics allow an overview of the fleet in a visual way, showing the different types of fishing vessels, like inshore catcher vessels, which are small vessels that provide pollock to be processed directly inshore, motherships, which are large at-sea processing vessels that do not fish but have smaller catcher vessels bring pollock to them, and catcher processors that do both. So how long does this process take, and what's happened so far? The interactive timeline gives timely relevance on the action, shows the process, as well as tentative future dates. So not only do users have a better understanding of the DEIS, but this collection is also designed to evolve. As updates and finalized versions of the EIS are released, the story map can be refreshed, making it a living tool that grows alongside the action itself. This project aims to be representative of the entire DEIS and all the communities and industries that it impacts. It was essential for me to represent information in a way that could be used as a tool across the board, giving the public room to form their own opinions and means of exploration throughout the document. So what now? What is the purpose of all of this? Federal law, specifically the Administrative Procedures Act, requires agencies to publish proposed rules in the Federal Register. This is the government's official daily journal of rules, notices, and public action. But more importantly, it gives the public the right to comment on them. And here's the key. Anyone can submit public comment on this action, including you. I chose this project because it is both relevant and urgent. And in my final collection, Call to Action, I offer a clear step-by-step guide on how to write an effective public comment. And while the next DEIS won't be out for another 3 months, it gives this project time to be shared, updated, and reflected on before the public comment period begins. Several partnering agencies and organizations are also available to help, offering resources, answering questions, and encouraging public engagement. I love fisheries because it's so connected to humanity, how people live, their families, their traditions, hard work, food on the table, and of course their identities. Please read through my deliverable and submit public comment to the Federal Register. Submit it in person. Submit public comment on Zoom. Submit public comment on issues facing your community, your lives, the lives of those who cannot speak for themselves. Help to amplify voices because you have a place in policy. You have a place in strengthening community, a place to protect our planet. Thank you. Just have a few thank yous. So thank you, of course, to my capstone committee. They have stood by me through this all. And my cohort, my family who's here, my boyfriend Ian. And if you would like to see the story map collection and learn more about the action itself, there's a QR code. Questions?
Hi, Kate. First of all, amazing presentation. I really learned a lot. I'm wondering, is there anything I can do other than submit a public comment in order to contribute? And also in general, since I don't live in Alaska, how can I keep up with this issue?
Yeah, thank you so much for your question. Because this is such a relevant topic, it can be connected to people, especially if you are a seafood consumer, if you've ever had Alaskan salmon, which I'm sure a lot of you have, just being really conscious about your sustainable seafood choices and anything that comes back to you from fisheries. Pollock is very common and gets imported and exported, so also being just aware of the sustainability of fisheries and where it's sourced from is really important and connected to us. Also encouraging just learning and exploration and education about the indigenous lands that you reside upon and the subsistence communities that continue to use their lands in the way that they originally did for millennia. So, yeah.
Hi, Kate.
Hi.
Very proud of you. You did wonderful.
Thank you.
I saw in one of your earlier slides the spikes in Bycatch. There was a spike in 2022 that you talked about, but I saw one, like a pretty big one in 2005. What makes it so volatile, the Bycatch?
It really depends on the conditions a lot of times. It's a complicated process that goes with it, so I'd love to explain it to you when we have a little bit more time. But there's a lot of analyses that are done within the DEIS that kind of allude to what has happened before in the past.
Since this is an ongoing issue, how do you see this resource being used going forward? You said you have like 3 months until DEIS comes out.
Yeah, great question. So I would love to see this. Well, right now, this project is a reflection of my understanding of the DEIS, and when I originally went through the document and pulled out information that I thought was absolutely the need to knows of the DEIS. However, right now it hasn't been reviewed by any agencies or organizations, so if NOAA decides to use this as a product in their outreach, they're going to have to put it through a pretty extensive review process. And I look forward to hopefully seeing that. But any organization really can use this tool to help explain the issue, and it can be updated as well, which makes it nice for when the DEIS comes out in August.